2026 means the political calendar now officially turns to the midterms, and Democrats are hopeful they can continue the momentum they gained in a number of high-profile victories last year. 10 months from now, all 435 seats in the House will be on the ballot, with Republicans defending their narrow 5-seat majority. While in the Senate, Democrats will have to flip 4 seats to take control of that chamber. The Cook Political Report lists 4 races as toss-ups, with the most vulnerable candidates being Republican Susan Collins in Maine and Democrat John Ossoff in Georgia. Let's bring in 2 longtime campaign strategists. Mark McKinnon is the former advisor to George W. Bush and John McCain and creator of the documentary series The Circus. And back with us is Chuck Rocha, a Democratic strategist who served as senior advisor to Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. Thanks to both of you. Mark, what race are you most interested in?
Well, first of all, I'll say that it's, historically, the party that holds the presidency loses the House. Only twice in modern politics has that changed the equation. So that's unlikely to happen. So Democrats are likely to win the House. The average pickup is 25 seats, and they only need to pick up 4, as you just mentioned. So very likely the House will flip. The question is, can Republicans hold the Senate? And the answer is likely yes. But there's some very interesting races. The North Carolina race is very interesting, where Democrats could flip that because they have a very popular former governor, Roy Cooper, who's running. They could flip Maine, where Harris won that race in the presidential race, won it by a point over Trump. But the Republican Susan Collins won, so she's vulnerable. So those are a couple of states that I think are really key. And then there's some wild races like Texas that could really surprise at the end of the day.
Yeah, I want to get to Texas in a little bit, but Chuck, what about you? Is there a specific race that you're looking at closely?
I'm watching Texas, of course, our home state. Mark's done a lot of work there. I've done a lot of work there. Who wins that primary? Keep your eye on the primary. There's this interesting primary with Tallarico and with Jasmine Crockett. And then there's also a Republican primary where you have Republicans fighting each other. That's why I'm really keeping my eye on that. And then my wild card here in the Senate is our old friend Sherrod Brown in Ohio, who's coming back to run for a seat in Ohio. And in a year like we're having right now, with a guy who's leaned into working class values like Sherrod Brown, I think that could be a dark horse as we move into 2026.
As you and Mark both pointed out, you guys are experts on Texas politics. So since we got to Texas, I want to ask you both this question that was posed by Politico. For all of the attention Democrats are lavishing on the Texas Senate campaign, which other Senate races will have a closer final margin in the general election? Maine, North Carolina, Ohio, Nebraska, or all of the above? What's your answer, Chuck?
I think right now it's a long time till Election Day, but it would be all of the above. There's a lot of things happening around the country, and folks, as I said in an earlier segment, are really aggravated right now. So I think there's a lot of things that are moving out there across the country, and I think you're going to be really surprised on Election Day.
Mark, how do you see it? Because some would argue that Texas may be a waste of money for Democrats, that they should focus on all those other races I just mentioned.
Yeah, I agree. I think you should focus on all the other ones. I mean, it's only if it's a huge wave that Texas would be in play. And listen, I get this question every 2 years. As Chuck said, we've worked a lot in Texas. The last, before I crossed the bridge, I worked for the last Democrat to be elected statewide in Texas. That was Ann Richards, and that was 35 years ago. So, every time this happens, I have to say, just pump the brakes a little bit. Texas has got a long way to go because they make the mistake of saying, oh, it's, demographics are destiny, and because there's a rising Hispanic population, it's going to turn Democratic. Hispanics in Texas are very, very conservative.
Chuck, I want to talk about young men because President Trump made significant gains with young men in 2024, but now some Democrats say the momentum is shifting towards them. NBC notes that in Trump's first year in office, many young men say they feel a continued economic and social malaise, cutting into Trump's support with that key group. Do you think that this is an opening for Democrats?
It's an opening. It's yet to see if the Democrats will walk through it, but there is a roadmap. I was a senior advisor to Ruben Gallego in the last race, and I go back 35 years to also running part of Ann Richards' campaign in East Texas when I was a young kid. You know what they had in common? both of those campaigns leaned into a working class narrative around you speaking up to your government, speaking up to local officials, and leaning into the sanctity of family, friendship, worship, and work. And that was something that Democrats need to do if they want to win back young men, because young men right now feel frustrated. They're frustrated that they gave Donald Trump a shot and stuff hasn't gotten any cheaper. And on top of that, they're picking up their friends with masked ICE agents. That's not a formula for success, and that's what the off-year elections has already showed us.
We could ask a ton more questions and get more into the nitty-gritty, but we have to leave it there. Mark McKinnon and Chuck Rocha.
Accountability matters. Transparency matters. And justice only works when it applies to everyone, not just the powerless. That's why these stories matter. If you believe the public deserves facts instead of spin, and clarity instead of silence, take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to Behind the Headlines for calm, independent political analysis. I'm Morgan Reed. Thanks for watching.